guys, Cavin Elizabeth here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking all about ceremony lighting and how you can make it better for your wedding photos. So when it comes to ensuring that you as a couple, bride or groom, whatever you identify as, can make your wedding ceremony photos the best that you can possibly make them, there are some things that you can do in terms of the timing or the positioning of your ceremony to work with the lighting to make sure that the lighting is as good as it can possibly be for your photos. So lighting is everything when it comes to photography. Photography pretty much is lighting. It's a couple other things too, but mainly it is lighting. And so I'm going to be talking today about outdoor weddings and indoor weddings and the things that you can do to make your ceremony as good as possible when it comes to lighting. Now when it comes to outdoor weddings, really the sun is your main source of lighting. That's pretty much what you're going to be working with or against is the sun, and indoor you're going to be working with the lighting that is in your space, as well as maybe hiring some additional lighting. So I'm going to be talking about outdoor weddings first, and then I'll talk about indoor weddings. So let's go ahead and talk about outdoor weddings. So like I said, the sun is going to be your main and probably your only source of lighting as long as you're getting married during the daytime or maybe even a sunset ceremony. The sun is going to be probably your only source of lighting. Now most photographers, I would say, I'm willing to bet on this, most photographers for outdoor weddings for daytime ceremonies are probably not going to be working with additional lighting. They're just going to be working with whatever the sun is providing. I would find it pretty obtrusive if a photographer was going to bring in additional lighting for outdoors daytime wedding. Also too, most lights are not going to be able to outpower the sun. It's kind of technical, I'm not really going to get into that. Most of you are probably not photographers, but you would really need really high power lights to work against the sun to overpower it, and a lot of photographers are not going to be bringing that to the wedding day, and it's going to be really obtrusive. So really we're just going to be working with the sun for your daytime outdoor wedding. So there are a couple of things that you want to keep in mind for trying to get the best possible outdoor lighting with the sun. Now one is the timing of the day and the other is the positioning of the sun. So when it comes to timing, I recently did a video all about the timing, kind of when you should schedule your ceremony. And what I typically recommend is to schedule your ceremony about an hour and a half before sunset. And you can look up the sunset by Googling sunset, whatever your city is, and then the date of your wedding ceremony. And that is if you are basically having like a 30-minute ceremony, do about an hour and a half before sunset. If your ceremony is an hour, maybe start 2 hours before. That is because the sun is really in a really nice position about an hour and a half before. It's not too high in the sky. If you were having to get married at a time like noon, the sun is going to be directly overhead, or maybe even 1 p.m. It's going to be directly overhead, and that's going to cause some under eye shadows. It's just really harsh at this time of day, and when the sun gets a little bit lower in the sky, it's just a little bit softer. The shadows are a little bit more forgiving. That's why the light is a little bit nicer at this time of day. You're a little bit closer to sunset. Sun is a little bit softer. Positioning is a little bit better. So that's the best time of day, at least in my personal opinion. Now when it comes to positioning, the sun positioning is very important. And some of this is preference, but some of it is definitely going to be pretty objective. So let's talk about the positioning of the sun. You might be stuck with only one site option at your venue. They might have like one good backdrop and the rest of it is not good. So if that is the case, you might only be working with one of these options. And if it is not the ideal option, I am really sorry. Just know if it's not ideal, that's not the end of the world and it is okay. But if you have some flexibility to choose your site option based on some of the things that I'm talking about, then by all means, maybe wiggle some things around and choose a different site based on the lighting, but at least now you're going to be informed on the different lighting situations. So the first one is when the sun is going to be behind the vow area and you are going to be what is called backlit. So the sun is going to be shining from behind you. So from the photographer's perspective, if they're standing in the middle of the aisle taking pictures of you, the sun is shining behind your hair. It's really beautiful. I think this type of lighting is very soft, very fresh, very bright and airy. I really love this lighting. It is my favorite type of lighting to work with for ceremonies. I absolutely love it. I think it is just the most beautiful lighting. That is down to my preference. You might not like this lighting. This might not be your favorite lighting, but for me, when I show up to a wedding day and this is the kind of lighting I get for a ceremony, I am just overjoyed and I'm so happy to have this lighting as my favorite. So that is backlighting, and if you can have this kind of lighting and you agree that you think this is the most beautiful, then definitely choose the site at your venue that has backlighting at the time of day for your ceremony. Now the next kind of lighting is going to be, you could call it front lighting. So that is where the sun is shining in front of you. It is not behind you, it's in front of you, and this is kind of where you're in full sun. This kind of lighting is a lot more harsh, it's more contrasty because the brights are very bright and the shadows are very dark. So it is a little bit harsher. It's not as kind to the skin if you're close up, but again, it's not bad lighting. It's just a different kind of lighting. It's not my favorite, but at least if you want it to be this way, just have it be very even. Now, what's not ideal with this kind of lighting is if there are maybe some trees that the sun is coming through being front lit and it's casting some speckled light onto you. That is what you don't want. So if that is going to happen, maybe if you set your ceremony like 20 minutes earlier or 20 minutes later, and you can avoid that because maybe the sun is a little higher in the sky and it's not going to be coming through those trees, then you want it to be even, and that's great. So you can kind of figure this out by making a site visit around the time of day that your ceremony might be and seeing how the lighting looks. Maybe have your partner stand at the vow area, see if the lighting is even, and then you'd be good to go. So that's how you can figure that out. The last type of lighting is side lighting, and this is my least favorite type of lighting because it is uneven from the front view of the photographer taking pictures of you down the aisle. Now this is where the sun is coming from one side, so it is hitting maybe the bride in full sun and the groom or the other bride is in complete shadow, and so that is very uneven. It's kind of hard to edit because you're trying to balance a really bright person with a really dark person, or maybe the other person's in full sun, the other person's in full shadow. So this is really tough, and what makes it extremely hard is, say you do have a bride and a groom. If the bride is in full sun, she's wearing a white dress, it is extremely bright, and the groom is in a dark suit and he's extremely dark. So that is just really challenging to edit, and again, it's very contrasty and just really harsh. So that's my least favorite type of lighting, and that is one that I do not like and I think is the least ideal. So if that happens to you and you're stuck with that kind of lighting, what I might suggest, if you are open to it, if you are a bride and a groom couple and you are having the bride is going to be the one in full sun, maybe switch sides. It's okay to switch sides. There doesn't have to be oh, the bride goes on this side, the groom goes on that side. If you're a bride and groom couple, switch sides and have the groom be the one in his dark suit absorbing that light. He in the dark suit can take on more light in the editing process in the photography world a lot better than someone in a very, very bright dress. So that's going to be a lot better for your photos. So switch sides. That is what I would recommend if that is the only kind of situation you can deal with for your venue. So that's what my recommendation would be. So those are the three kinds of lighting situations, and that is pretty much it. So again, if you have the options at your venue to choose from different sites and you find them all to be equally beautiful, maybe choose the one with the lighting situation that you find to be most beautiful from what I have just described. Now, if you are getting married outdoors, but you are getting married during the nighttime, I would definitely suggest hiring a lighting company to add lighting, because if you don't have lighting professionally done, what is going to happen is that your photographer has two situations that they can deal with. They can either kind of push their cameras to the limits, and cameras can go pretty far these days with their settings that they can be pushed to. You don't have as much noise and grain as you used to. You will still have some if you were trying to shoot in a really dark situation, but not as much as you used to have maybe 10 years ago. But the lighting is still not going to be very dynamic because you don't have lighting coming at you like you would from the sun, or maybe lighting from a lighting company coming at you. So you're just working with the ambient light in the situation, and it's not very dynamic. There's not nice light curving around your face, so there might be weird shadows on you, just different things happening, so it's not very dynamic. So yes, you will be able to see your faces, but it's not a very nice, beautiful light that I would consider. It's just going to be very ambient. Now, maybe you like that style of lighting, and that's totally fine. But for me, I would actually, as a photographer, probably have to bring in my flash, which you might find obtrusive. It really just depends on the situation. I would have to read the room. But if you are somebody who doesn't want to see your photographer's flash going off during your ceremony, because your photographer may choose to work with flash, they might not want to work with the ambient light. And ambient light just means the lights that's existing in the situation. They might be using flash and you might find that distracting. So what I would truly recommend in a situation like this is to bring in professional lighting. Whether you have 1,000 candles brought into the situation, or hiring a lighting company to bring in spotlights to put in front of you, behind you for backlight, which is really beautiful. Something like that, just so you're lighting up the situation to give your photographer more ambient light in the room to work with, or in the outdoors to work with, I think is a really great idea. And now when it comes to those lights, the bigger lights they use, the softer the light is going to be. That's just how photography works. So that is my recommendation, is to make sure you're hiring a lighting company. So moving on to indoor ceremonies. Just depending on where you are getting married, maybe your indoor venue has a lot of windows around, there's a lot of light in the situation, then you are probably going to have pretty bright photos and a lot of light coming in from the side, lighting you all around. Maybe that's a really great situation to start off with for your photographer. But if you are getting married in a dark venue, churches can be really dark to work with. I've kind of yet to work at a church that is particularly bright. A lot of churches that I work with have mixed colors of light, so the ceiling lights are all different colors, and that is so extremely hard to edit, so it can be really tough to work with. Churches are usually pretty dark as well, and oftentimes there's like very crazy shadows on the couple because the lights are coming from overhead, so they're just particularly tough situations to work with. One thing I recommend, if your indoor venue is particularly dark or dim, again, photographers can push their cameras to their limits, but like I mentioned earlier, not having those directional lights coming in and bringing light wrapping around your face from different angles, like maybe the sun would do, providing nice backlight, or just different dynamic light, you might want to consider hiring a lighting company to just bring in a little bit of extra light, just to shape it around your bodies really nicely. Might not be a bad idea if it's in budget to do so, and you don't have to go crazy. I'm not saying bring in like 15 different lights, but just maybe a couple of lights based on their recommendation, just to add a little bit of light to the situation, just so your photographer doesn't have to push their camera to their limits, because that's not always ideal. We don't want to be doing that. Just because we can doesn't mean we want to be doing that. So I definitely recommend, if your venue is a little bit darker, to hire a lighting company, because unless it's got a lot of windows, chances are it is going to be quite dark and dim in there, and there might be some unwanted shadows that maybe bringing in some lights can get rid of. So again, a professional lighting company, just renting them for the day, is a fantastic idea. So I hope this video was helpful. Again, lighting is everything to photography. It is really important. You can always consult with your photographer, ask them their opinion on the space that you're using, what they think is going to be best for the situation. They can let you know, oh, this space definitely needs some more lighting, or no, it doesn't. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you would like to see a video all about reception lighting and how that works, I would be more than happy to do that. Just let me know down in the comments below, and then I will see you guys next time. Bye!